Welcome to Latter-day Bride and our training material on alterations from Dee Dee Anderson, our alterations specialist who we refer to as the magician.
Hi, my name is Dee Dee Anderson. I'm a professional seamstress. I specialize in bridal and prom alterations. I'm here this evening in this beautiful shop of Latter-day Bride in downtown Salt Lake City, Utah, and I am training some bridal stylists. And I hope you will join me and that you will also learn from a seamstress's point of view some training that bridal stylists need to know. Come join me. Welcome to our bridal consultant training. We're going to start with measurements. First measurement is the bust. Go around the fullest part. Something important to remember is these numbers are not public domain. They need to be kept private. You just hold your tape measure, go over to your book and write it down. Don't have a friend help you and you holler the numbers across the room to your friend writing them down. You just do it yourself, and also don't try and hold your notebook and your pen and try and tape measure. Just put it down on a chair or a table and write your measurements down that way. Your bride, unless she asks, doesn't need to know the numbers either. If she actually asks, then it's okay, but otherwise, she doesn't need to know. All right, our waist. When we find that waist, how you find it, could you bend sideways? I can feel her hinge right there. Do that again. Right there is her hinge. That's where waist is. Fashions come and go, and people think their waist is a lot of different places, but it's where you hinge. Okay, that's where your waist is. Don't pull it too tight, and then just hold it again. Walk over and write your number down. Hip, again, is the fullest part of your bottom. Brides always want you to do it a little bit higher because it's a smaller number. And you know what? We want the dress to fit over your bottom. And so you do it where it's the fullest. And then we write that down. The next ones that not as common, but sometimes are needed, is the across the shoulder. I need you to raise this arm. Let me feel that pin. There's a hinge right there. And some people call it the ball of the shoulder. I call it the hinge. Hinge over here, please. Back down. Okay, there we go. And I write that number down. The next one, the length of the arm. Bend her arm just slightly like this. Find that little hinge. Right when you hit that elbow, turn the corner and find that little wrist bone down there. That is the length of her arm. Are you right or left-handed?
Right.
Right hand. Can you give me a big, strong arm? Most people, their dominant arm is slightly larger than their other arm. Especially, it can be significant if they're a horseback rider, volleyball, tennis. They can have you want to get your largest arm. Someone who has lost a lot of weight, arm measurements can be quite lopsided. Eventually, everything kind of balances back out, but especially on their arms, they seem to have very different numbers. It's good to measure both arms and then take the largest, because sometimes if this is the one they're working with, they actually lose more weight on it than the arm that's not dominant. And so weight loss people, things settle out eventually, but do take the largest, whichever arm is largest. Most important, and the one that people have the hardest time with, hollow to hem. Right up there, right under her necklace is her hollow. Now, you want to go over the bust, not right down through the middle. No, we want to go over, and then we go down to the ground. Is that about the size of heel that you would be planning on wearing in this dress?
Yeah.
Are you looking straight ahead? When you look down, you ruin the length. Have them look straight ahead with good posture, and then that to the floor. And then ask them about their heel height. If they've got the shoes on that they're gonna wear, that's great. A lot of times, shoes are hard for brides. hard to find, ask them estimate and say, I'd rather go a little too high than too low. So, and write that down with it. And when you write the hollow to hem, put plus 2-inch heel or something like that, or just do the total with that. But make sure to make a note of that. It's important, and sometimes the brides forget, and it's important that you write that down so that you can remind them that you wrote that down. And then their memory is jogged. Thank you very much. You've been a good model for me. Sizing. We've got our measurements. Now let's move on to what to do with those measurements as far as figuring out the size for your bride. If your bride is having a strapless dress, most often, if she's fairly proportional, you want to go by the bust measurement for your sizing. Sometimes if they have a very pear-shaped, very disproportional hip measurement, you might want to do it by that. You want to make sure that dress will accommodate that hips. Very rarely do you want to do a custom sizing. Oh, and by the way, when you determine that size, you don't need to even speak about it with the bride that much. They're usually traumatized because wedding dresses run very small, and they're not used to being put in a dress that large, that size of a dress. And if they have a problem, remind them that they are a person, not a size, and that we're just trying to find the dress that fits them the best. And it's not about what size it is, because it is hard. Some girls, that's a big ticker with it. So you don't even really need to mention what size. You just need to be bringing her the dresses that are the right size. And sometimes as you start trying them on, you'll say, I think I need to find a size that fits you a little better. Whether that's smaller or larger, they don't need to know. They just need to have a good experience and not be traumatized by the sizing. Okay? Custom sizing, I would strongly discourage it except for very extreme cases. Most girls are disappointed when they have a dress custom made to their measurements. I can have 5 girls with the same measurements that fit a dress completely different. That chest measurement can be from a strong back, it can be from a very narrow back and more bust. Hips can be all over the place as far as where that measurement comes in, and they will all fit it different and need to have the dress refined. If they do go for a custom dress, please explain that they should be expecting some minimal but some alterations to get that dress to fit them correctly. And I strongly suggest you just don't, unless there is extreme cases, even encourage custom sizing. I did once have a dwarf darling bride who had pretty much a normal sized torso, and the skirt needed to be this long and then the train coming out, and it was beautiful. It definitely needed to be settled down onto her shoulders, and she, where they took her measurements, was a little disappointed that she didn't try it on and it was just fitting perfect. And I had to remind her she had scoliosis, and literally one hip was 2 inches lower than the other, and I was like, there's no way measurements can inform, as you know, whoever made your dress, of those kind of things. It needs to be settled down on your body. And it was very simply settled down, and she was very happy. But even she had the expectation that this dress would fit her perfect the first time. And all brides seem to have that expectation. So avoid custom unless it's an extreme situation. Now we're going to talk about getting a girl into her dress. Zipping, corsets, little pearl buttons, all of those. We'll cover all of those now. First of all, we're going to work on a strapless dress. Here we go. Something I want to point out on strapless dresses is there's usually a lot of structure, boning inside of them to help hold them up and support the dress, since it doesn't have straps to hold the dress up. It needs to have a lot of internal structure. This dress, and hers has tons of boning layers. I can feel them right through there. There's like 3, 1, 2, 3. Then on the seams. Yeah, this is pretty much complete boning on the inside, and it feels good on, doesn't it? It gives you a lot of support, and it keeps the dress where it needs to be. That's an important part. Something you need to, as you're zipping these dresses up, is to respect the curve from here down to there. It's a circumference like this, and the manufacturers and designers decide what kind of a slope they want on that back, coming from the front to the back. This one looks about like that. Now, if someone was not respecting that slope and they decided, oh, I'm gonna raise the back up, my arm's right in the way, let me show this. Raise the back up, look what happened to the front. Raise the back down, raise it up, it goes down. And what happens when the girl has the dress on? When this, instead of, if they raise that back up, it's like opening a drawer, the top drawer of their dresser. And their dress, instead of hugging, see how her dress hugs back? The dress just, they're almost spilling out of it. And it looks wrong, and they will not like the dress, and they will not be happy with that dress. So you need to respect that slope, okay? Make sure to be pulling that back onto her body, because these girls want to be held in. All right, can you turn sideways? Let's show, this comes from here down. There's quite a slope there, do you see that? And it's standing on its own all the way. I'm gonna undo this, and I'm sorry to do it because it is so nicely done. Sorry, I won't do it the whole way, but I'm gonna do it enough so that you can see how to do this. First of all, a dress with this much boning, you have to tell it who's boss. If you aren't telling her what to do here, and I'll show you this in a minute, the dress itself will just do it. I would like you to take this dress, hold it right here under your arms, pull it back, and position it exactly how you want to fit in the front. How tight you want it hugging next to you. Okay, you got it? Okay, when she does that, then we pull back on the back. If I did this, raised it up, do you dare let go? Do you see what happened there? Okay, get it back down. Okay, when we do that, let me get your little hooks going here. We get that, respecting that curve going down on her back. Something else, back cleavage, no. Don't ever let her go out and see in the mirror a dress on her with back cleavage. You just use your fingers, smooth it out. Don't ever. They will feel sad in their dress. Okay, so we corset in that, and we had that smooth out there. Turn sideways again, and see how that's hugging in, and we've pretty much respected the curve and the slope on that back. Let's do our corset dress now. First of all, this has shoulders. Something important to remember when you are doing a cinch-up dress with shoulders is to lay it down on their shoulder, unless they actually have a very short torso and the bust isn't, but this one is fitting her shoulders pretty nice. I once had a mother of a bride furious. She had her bride and she had a corset back, and actually she did have a short torso, so I had shortened the shoulder on her dress. Well, came the day of the wedding, and the mother cinches her into the dress, but cinches her in with her shoulders up high. And she had to she's complaining, I had to safety pin it. I couldn't over the phone, and she was just furious. tell her, uncinch it and put it down on her shoulders and cinch it. A cinch-up dress goes up, down, up, down. It cinches wherever you want it to, so cinch it down on her shoulders. Okay, now, first of all, let's get these out here. My goodness. You want to make sure everything's twisted. And then don't worry about the back panel. Don't worry about how tight it is. At first, you're going to do 5 crossovers, just really loose. But always start with the right side on each set, crossing it over. And the reason I say the right side, it doesn't really matter. You just need to start with the same side. But right means you're doing it right, and so I always say right, so that the bridal consultants have a little bit of, and then this side goes over. And see, this is all baggy, we're not worried. This is gonna be a long process, and so tell the girl, your bride, just say, hang in there for a bit here. Make sure that they don't get twisted. And now again, I'm going to start the next loop with the right. The reason I do this is I start going down more, you will notice it just looks uniform and pretty when we do that. If you're in a hurry and she's trying on a lot of dresses, you can do every other one. Once again, I'm starting with the right. And you notice my back panel is looking pretty, just flopsy-wopsy. Don't worry about the back panel snapping. Every time a bride, even if she fits the dress right, she's gonna cinch in and out of it a little bit different. And so they keep them with the dress so they don't fall on the floor and things like that. But once you're getting her cinched in, I think we've got you're snapped on this one side, but this side is loose. And it just needs to be adjustable. Alrighty. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is our 5th one. 5, yes. There we go. Now, first thing we're going to do now, we're going to say, hang on, girl. Now we're going to start cinching you. Most important thing to remember, pull out, away from the corset, and then start smoothing that out. The next one, pull away from the corset, pull away. Oh, you little skinny mini, look at this. And pull away. Don't pull in, pull out. That puts a lot less pressure on your loops, and because that is a problem, sometimes they bust, and it just helps them be happy. Your loops are much happier if you can keep it. Now it looks like I got that one twisted, so I'm gonna smooth that one out. Looks like I did it right from the start. Fine. We'll get it untwisted here. Maybe that's how that one got twisted to start with. So at 5, we get it smoothed out here and cinched up. And then do 5 more, and so on and so on, all the way down. And I'm always starting with the right. And as it goes down more, you'll start seeing the pattern and seeing why that looks nice. Are you growing cobwebs waiting for me?
No.
It's a long process. You should definitely not be in a hurry on your wedding day if you've got a corset back. Now when we get clear to the bottom, if we did this clear to the bottom. After we, well, maybe I'll show you one more time. We'll start pulling these out again. Okay, just put your fingers in there and then pull out. Put your fingers on the inside, pull out. Okay, definitely easier on your loops. When we get clear down to the bottom, you can ask the bride, do you want it knotted and tucked in the middle on the inside, or do you want a bow and have it hanging on the outside? If you do the knot, don't do it too tight, and then just tuck it down inside. A lot of them want that. Some want it on the outside, but that's how you do a corset. Can you see the pattern, how it's smooth and just looks prettier when you always do that side? Thank you so much. Okay, thing to remember most, pull the corset things out and always start with the same side on a corset one. Okay, let's talk about doing button-up back. Most important thing, hook. Those hook and eyes at the very bottom, and there should be another one up at the top. I love this dress. Up at the top, there's another hook and eye that helps support the button loops so that the button loops don't stretch out. Always do the hook and eye first to support that button loop. There we go. You can start from the top down or the bottom up. Either way is fine. Encourage the bride to get a crochet hook to put into her bag if she decides to choose a dress with buttons. These are pretty pearl ones. They're actually easier. There's also fabric buttons. Something very, very, very important to remember on this, if the dress is too tight, this one is fitting her pretty nice, but if the button loops are too tight, don't button them. Just don't. And tell her, I'm sorry, the dress fits a little too snug down here. We don't want to stretch out these button loops. So we're going to go a little bit higher up on her. So we're going to not do those ones because it seemed a little like it would stretch out the button loops. And that can damage the dress. And it's very hard for me to replace those stretched out button loops. I usually have to replace the entire strip of button loops, so I would prefer you just didn't. And they can get a pretty good visual, and it looks pretty ugly when they're all stretched out anyway, so it's not a good visual for them. So this is actually a better visual for them having that than having these way stretched out. It doesn't look that great, and it's ruining the dress. So just button away, and we'll see if I got this matched up here. I don't know if I did or not. Oh, tag, look at that. Something I want to show you on this dress while we've got it here. This illusion is so beautiful, and it's important for me as a seamstress that I get it fitting nice and smooth. If I get it too tight, it cuts in and makes a dent on her shoulder, and you lose the vision. I mean, now the visual is that this lace is just kind of floating around like it magically just appears on her arm. But if you get a big indent from where that's too tight, the netting, it ruins the whole look. So you want that pretty, and sometimes they're like, I need it tight in order to hold everything up. Sticky straps, in the pink box, sticky straps will put it under that lace and it'll hold it where you want that to be. And you can leave this, you want it to fit perfect, but not too tight. Okay, thank you very much. We'll let someone else unbutton you. All right, that's it for getting into a dress. Okay, we're going to talk about things you need to know that an alteration seamstress can do to help the bride with the fit on her dress. Obviously, this dress does not fit her well. And of course, we can raise the shoulders this dress probably take in the sides through here. Easily taking those sleeves. One of the reasons I had her put this dress on was because one of the things a seamstress can do is farm fabric. Let's say this was a strapless and she decided she wanted to do a build-up on it. This was the love of her life, but it only came in strapless and she needed to have shoulder coverage. I could farm some fabric off of this. Where this is so full, to see that big full skirt, right here there's a seam, and this is very flared, and I could, if I could farm from here, take that seam in like that, and farm a significant amount of fabric out and redo the seam. Usually I need to do the hem anyway and relocate the hem so it tapers back in right through there, and farm quite a bit of fabric out of that and not ruin the look of the fullness, because you certainly don't want to take away the beauty of that fullness of that dress. But you can take a significant amount out, enough to do a build-up. I've done a long sleeve. I was kind of like, really? You have to have a long sleeve when I'm farming? But you can even do a long sleeve if you have a full enough dress. A narrow dress, no, you can't do this. I did last week a narrow dress, but she had a long train, and so I was able to take it off the end of the train and use that for a back panel that she needed on her dress. So farming fabric is something that's available. It's better if you have time to order the fabrics and the laces, but sometimes that's not an option. And so this is a second option. Another thing that we can do, of course, shorten the sleeve and hems. This hem is a really cool hem. This is a horsehair braid hem, and yes, it can be adjusted. It's a bit pricey, plus it's a lace. So lace hems are always a bit pricey too, because I have to remove and then raise up. We don't hem the train. We usually just hem the front. Can you turn around? We want to hem where they're walking and where they're stepping. We want to make sure is right to the ground, and then taper out into the train from there. In this dress where it's full, you'd want it to have quite a bit that's right there to the ground. Okay, which would be significant amount that we'd be hemming and then replacing that horsehair braid. Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, okay.
Such a gorgeous dress. Let's talk about that dress. You definitely got to see a dress that was too large. Sometimes they're too small. If they're dramatically too small, and yes, that happens even after they've bought it, sometimes it's 3 to 6 months before the dress comes in, and they can change sizes significantly. If they have changed sizes significantly, there are corset kits that we can order. I get these online, and I love them. And they come with a back panel, they come with your ties and everything, and so you can, and usually the brides are in a panic, and this is very reassuring. But this is for like a dramatically too tight dress. Just taking out on the side seams, I can usually get about 2 inches let out, that we can let out a dress. Sometimes a dress is simply just a little snug, and they're like, oh, it's just, and you can just feel it on them. It's just, and when you zip them up, it's just a little snug. And in that case, what I recommend, 3 days, 30 minutes. For 3 days, they put the dress on, and I always recommend that they stuff tissues in their armpits so that they don't get their dress pitty, and they just sit in that dress And after about 20 minutes, the body heat from their body will have relaxed those fibers, and they can do a little bit of wiggling around. After 20 minutes, you need to wait for those fibers to relax, and it will loosen up that dress. It's kind of like if your roommate borrows your jeans, and she says, I'm the same size as you, but they fit weird when you put them back on, because the fibers have relaxed to her shape. And this kind of relaxes the dress to her shape and gives her a little bit of elbow room. And a lot of times, that's all they need, is just to have those fibers relaxed and formed to them. Let's go over how to zip a bride into a dress that has a shoulder on it, okay? I'm gonna take this down. Oh, here we go with our tag. Got quite the tag here. Okay, make sure that you're getting that dress down on her shoulders if it fits. If she has a short torso, get it to where it's hugging into her bust line, but this one fits her really nice there. Now, I want you, sometimes when you're zipping up and you get to this waistline, the zipper gets stuck, especially with invisible zippers. And I'm gonna show you the pageant pose, what you girls need to do. Put your hands on your hips. Now push back. Don't keep them out here. Now push back. Now arch your back just a little. Oh, look at this great big gap I have now. Did you see that? And when you have an invisible zipper, they almost always get stuck right here. Now when you release and we let go, look, it just fits nice. But if she doesn't do that, we have quite a struggle, and sometimes it's hard on the zippers, especially invisible ones, but that zipped up nice and smooth. Did you catch how to do that? Okay, pageant pose it's called. Doop, and then arch their back, and they push back on the dress, and it just opens up this huge gap so that you can get zipped up. Thank you. Now, I would also like to talk about hemming a lace dress. This dress is the most dramatic scallop that you will probably find on a lace hem. Let's talk about, yes, it is possible to hem a scalloped lace hem. When I hem a lace dress, I do it exactly how the manufacturers do it. So I want to show you first how the manufacturers do it. This dress just looks like it's just lace. Just magically it turns into a train and all that. But the truth is, right here, we've got it seamed together. Do you see how that goes? And it's seamed, and they've kind of curved it around in that. And in the front, can you turn just a little bit? That stitching goes up, all the way across. But it's done with invisible thread, and it's seamed, and when it's all together, you don't ever see those seams. But when I'm pointing it out, can you see right there, that seam going along there? And that's exactly how I do a hem. I do it exactly like the manufacturers. I remove this bottom part and then raise it up to where we need. Now, on this particular dress, this scallop is dramatic, beyond belief. I love it. What I would recommend, but it's the bride's choice, but this would be my preference, is if the high point, for high point, I mean this top point, if the high point is just touching the ground, and then let this just kind of puddle on the ground. So like this. Do you see how the high point is just touching? This is an amazing dress. Do you see how gorgeous that eyelash is on the bottom? You would never want to trim that off. It's so amazing. But that's how I would suggest having it. And usually dresses, the scallop is much lower, and I still say I recommend. They can have it however they want. Sometimes they don't want the lace touching the ground, and I kind of remind them, well, your train, it's touching the ground. So it's gonna touch the ground. Having the high point hit the ground, and then it just floats out a little bit from it, because you do not want to miss. That's the most amazing part of this design. Now, can I tell you what you do not ever do? You don't do the cheesy shortcut and take it from the waist. We never want to hem a dress from the top, okay? When you raise it from the top, and this is a shortcut that a lot of lazy seamstresses do, what it does is it gives you a lot more fullness and it pulls the material from the back forward. When you're raising this here, this at the back is getting, turn sideways. Do you see how that's pulling forward here? And it turns it into a maternity skirt because it pulls up and yeah, do not let a seamstress ever do that. And don't ever suggest to the bride that that's how you do it, okay? You don't. It's done exactly how the manufacturers do it, and make sure that you have a very highly skilled seamstress do those hems that knows how to do it right, or they could really ruin a dress. And we do not need maternity skirts, no. Thank you. I love this skirt. Let's talk about hanging a dress on a hanger. Spaghetti straps. Always, always, always hang it by the hang loops. These spaghetti straps can just hang off to the side. Spaghetti straps stretch out very easily. I want to tell you a very sad, true story. One of my darling pageant girls, we had her dress. It was a black, heavily beaded dress with spaghetti straps. When she goes down to the state pageant, down in Provo, they have assistants that help them get dressed and hang up their dresses. This assistant hung her dress just by the spaghetti straps. And then somehow one strap fell off and the whole dress was being held on by one black spaghetti strap. Well, the next day, when she goes to put that dress back on, one strap is just like this. Her mother tried safety pinning it on the back. They were concerned that it wasn't going to, that it might pop out. That can pretty much ruin your pad. Yeah, you're done. So Mom called me, said, will you be home in 2 hours? I said, yes, I will. She drove up to my house. We shortened the strap. She drove back. She wore a different dress for that particular part of the competition. She had to just hurry and switch dresses, and it needed that other. They can stretch out very easily. Make sure to train your bride when she gets it to never have those on, and because brides do it all the time too, and you need to inform them because they're not experts on this. Usually this is their one and only fancy wedding dress. So make sure spaghetti straps are not on the hangers. Let's talk about veils. First of all, we've got a gorgeous dress that is a big seller, and this is a hard one for picking veils. First of all, it doesn't have your same old kind of lace. This is a gorgeous lace that doesn't just jump out, oh, this lace on the end of this veil matches. It does not. Here's some choices. First of all, just very simple. A very simple veil that doesn't compete. By the way, veils go on. You see these beautiful combs? They hug. The comb hugs the head. And then we'll flip it over. Okay, comb hugs the head. This one just has a very simple edging, which again, doesn't compete with that veil. This one we already showed. We'll put it over here. I kind of liked the rat tail a little bit with this one. Again, it's smooth. And I like this one is the color of the underneath skirt, and so it makes it pop a little bit too. So either of those would work well. Something important when your store gets a new one or has a very favorite, go over and decide which veils you like. to go with it to suggest. Some brides have a very strong opinion on what veil they want, and some want a lot of guidance. And certainly don't give your opinions if they're pretty solid on what they want to do. Let them go for it. But if they are open to suggestions, make sure that you have already looked through your dresses and know what veils will go with them and would work well with them. And it just makes the whole process go a lot better. Thank you so much. Let's talk about bagging dresses. This is the last impression you make on a bride. It shows your respect for her and your respect for her dress if you bag it correctly. If it's just thrown in, the message you're giving is that you don't respect the dress. So it's very important to take good care of that dress. Now, I intentionally got a big, beautiful, fluffy train and skirt on this dress to demonstrate bagging a dress. First of all, we want to protect the front of the dress at all cost by turning it backwards. And we've got our gorgeous long train, and somewhere under here, there we go, is the lining. Hook this lining, this is the train, hook that over the hanger. Now, where's our hang loops? Wrap your hang loops twice. That takes the pressure off of the shoulder seams on your dress. And that way it doesn't fall off. We don't have any stretching. So let's get our hang loop and double loop it over, okay, before you put that shoulder up on. Now, our most important thing is we don't want to zip all of this netting and tulle into the zipper. The zipper is like the bad guy here, and it happens. And it breaks my heart when I'm trying to repair a shredded tulle skirt because someone got it caught in the zipper. And it's usually not a sales girl, it's usually like the mother or the bride that does it. You wrap this around. Wrap it around to the front as much as you can. Let's put the shoulders inside the bag, and then we'll start tucking. Now mostly what's going to show on the back after we get this tucked in to here, and it's a huge dress, so it's quite an ordeal. You want to smooth that back and then get all of this lining over top, smoothing around and protecting that tulle from the zipper. Do that on both sides. Make sure you've just got lining here and that all of your tulle is protected. Do you see how that's just protecting all of that there? And then, it can be a job zipping it up. And sometimes they're super full and you might need to have someone help you hold the zipper closed. And then zip it up and you're good to go. Thank you.